Hello, welcome to my channel. This is Amber Rain Davis from NotableInk.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to be making 4 cards out of 1 alcohol ink panel. This stamp set and the inks were from the Simon Says Stamp October 2018 kit. Products we'll be using are Simon Says Stamp Sketched Flowers and Tiny Words stamp set, as well as the Big U die, and Fawn's reverse stitched scallop circle window dies. So let's get started. I've got the Ranger alcohol ink in the color Stream, and I'm also going to be using a couple of my Copic Various inks. This is the BG10, and I'm also going to be using the 0, which is the Colorless blender. I wanted to keep the colors cool, and the other 2 colors that came in the Simon kit were Sunshine Yellow, and there was also an orange. So I wanted to get a couple variations, so that's why I pulled out my Copic refills. So this is the first time that I've ever used alcohol inks in this way. I've used alcohol markers to do some ink smushing, but I've not done an ink panel like this before. So I'm just really trying to get an idea of what happens when I drop the inks on. One of the things that I already love about this panel are the really hard edges where the white is. I love that. So for the yellow, what I did is I shook the bottle down, kind of like you're shaking down your ketchup bottle to get the ketchup to the bottom. And that, I really liked the look of that and how the ink came out. So I did that with the Stream color as well. And that helped to get a variance of sizes. Here I sprayed with a mini mister of Perfect Pearls and water to get texture where it was still wet and sheen where it was already dried. So that added a really cool texture. Next, I used Ranger's Alcohol Lift ink pad and the Sketched Flower stamp set to lift off that ink, and you can see that pattern there. I went ahead and cut the panel down with a die, and then I cut out, I think, 4 white U dies with the Simon Big U die set, and I also cut that out of the alcohol inked panel, and I'm going to stack that in there and inlay it. So I'm just making sure that I have enough adhesive down so that the die cut will stick. And you want to make sure that you save your pieces so that you can inlay those back in from the alcohol panel. So you can see me doing that here with the jewel picker tool. I like the jewel picker tool for this because it doesn't mar the surface or cause any indentations. So you can see that nice shine there. And then I use the Tiny Words stamp set to stamp Thank and white heat embossed it on Simon Says Stamp Peacock cardstock. And I'm going to put that on a card base. I recently got a color laser printer, and so instead of stamping the back of my cards, I went ahead and printed them. So I'm super excited about that. So that's so much easier. I can do a bunch at one time. We'll move on to the next card, and I'm going to die cut this piece of Gina K Designs Pure Luxury Petite Patterns paper pack. And so I want to use my alcohol inked U that we cut out of the first card. So this is a great way to get 2 cards out of one design. I went ahead and stacked that on 4 of the white U dies. And I'm just going to get the placement of that. So my pattern paper is slightly smaller, about 1/8 of an inch on all sides than my card base. So I'm going to get my U adhered, and then we'll go ahead and stamp some sub-sentiments to also put on that. And I tried to get it mostly lined up with those lines so that it wasn't too crazy looking. So what I used for my sub-sentiments is sending good vibes. So sending you good vibes, and I've placed them so that it would read that way. But I thought with the diagonal paper and it being so graphic, that would be a perfect sentiment. Moving on to the third card. So this is the other piece of that same panel that I had already stamped with the alcohol lift ink. I'm just going to cut out a square to go behind this panel that I cut with the Lawn Fawn stitched scallop circle die windows. Just going to put my adhesive around that and get that lined up. And then this card's going to be really simple. We're just going to stamp a sentiment on from the Sketched Flowers stamp set. We'll go ahead and also, I'm stamping it in VersaFine black ONYX ink, and then I'll clear heat emboss it. And I should have stamped it and heat embossed it first, but as long as you get your heat tool really hot beforehand, so start heating up your tool before you even start stamping or putting your powder on, and it should be fine. And then just direct it away from your alcohol inked panel to make sure you don't get any warping. So for our fourth and final card, I'm going to use the extra flowers, so the individual flowers that are in the Sketched Flower stamp set. And I stamped a bunch of them and just kept the rest in my stamp pocket for future use. I typically will stamp extras and just keep them in the stamp pocket just so that I don't have to do it again. And I'm going to fussy cut out a couple of these. What I did with that extra small piece that I had cut off of the square that I cut out for the last card, I went ahead and cut that in 4 strips on my paper trimmer just to spread it out so that it would have more presence and more interest on the card front. I definitely didn't want to throw it away because it's so pretty. So that's how I'm going to use this, and I'll pop those up on some foam tape. First, I'm going to get the placement of my leaves in this one little flower here. And then I'm going to work on the strips here. So these are the Doris foam strips here, and they're almost the perfect length for these strips here. So I'm going to get those on. Then I'm going to draw myself a line so that I can get them lined up correctly. And I'm just kind of eyeballing the space in between. Just make sure when you're putting them on that you're putting them on in the correct order so that your alcohol inked pattern is continuous from left to right. I'm going to pop up the flower on some foam tape, and then I'm going to adhere the leaves directly to the alcohol inked panel there. So you can see that there. And then I have to figure out, that was the sentiment that I was going to use, but it doesn't fit well. So I really, you know, when you're designing a card like this, I often get to the end and then worry about my sentiment. Maybe not always the best thing, so that I had to make sure that I could stamp it on there since those the alcohol ink is popped up. But it's stamped just fine. And again, just make sure your heat tool is good and hot. And then I need to erase my lines. So one of the things that I would recommend rather than drawing lines is maybe putting down a line of washi tape to help you, because it was hard. I had to peel up the alcohol ink panels in order to get the eraser under there. I would have been nice to have had a smaller eraser as well, but maybe use a line of washi tape that can peel off easily versus erasing. So I'm going to get my flower on there and then put this card on a piece of peacock, Simon Says Stamp peacock cardstock as a nice frame, and then I'll get that on the card base. And the 4th card will be done. We'll take another look at the cards. Here's the first card with the full alcohol ink panel. Here's the card with the U that was cut out of the first panel. This was with the Lawn Fawn window die cut out and the leftovers. That's showing the perfect pearl shine. And then this was from the scrap from that card where I extended it out by cutting it into strips. I hope you enjoyed these cards today. If you did, please hit the like button below. It's super helpful. And also subscribe if you'd like to see more cards. You can also subscribe to my Instagram account where I do giveaways and post more cards that I don't have videos for or blog posts for. And also subscribe to my blog at notableink.com. Thank you so much for stopping by, and have a fantastic day. I've also added a couple links to some other videos that you may be interested in.